everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So I am no legal expert, but I will say that I think that the evidences against Robert in these movies are circumstantial at best. And I don't think actually he had to, escape from the police in order to prove he's innocent and all that stuff. He probably could have, plead his case and say there are very, very few evidences against me apart from, very circumstantial ones. But maybe he just took a look at his lawyer and said, fuck it, I'm out of here. But this is one of these things that you're going to have to accept in order to kind of enjoy this movie, that you don't have to, rely too much on, the legal procedures and stuff like that, and you're probably going to have to suspend your disbelief a lot in order to accept whatever is going to happen in this movie. You're also going to have to accept the fact that this movie contains lots and lots and lots of blackface in the end of the movie. The only movie I've seen with more blackface in this movie is probably Tropic Thunder, but that was for comedic reasons. So what is Young and Innocent about, and how does it stack up against the rest of the early Hitchcock filmography? That's what we're gonna find out today. This is Young and Innocent. This movie begins with two people arguing with each other. In the next sequence, the woman is washed up on a shore, on a beach, and she's dead. A young man named Robert sees her and goes down to her and recognizes her and knows who she is. But he runs away in order to, find some help. But there are two ladies who are spotting him, and, they think that he's running away from, a crime scene and stuff like that. And they're telling that to the police and, saying that we saw him run away and, this woman was lying here. And now they come to the conclusion that she has been killed very, very recently, strangled with a belt. And it turns out that Robert has exactly that kind of a belt on his coat, but he's claiming that, this coat was stolen from him at a place called Tom's Hat recently, and the police think that is a little bit of a coincidence that happens. It also turns out that she, had put him in her will, and, they have done business before and they knew each other. So they assume that he is the murderer. As I said in the intro, I didn't think that, the evidence against him was that strong. But when it turns out that the barrister who's going to represent him is the most incompetent motherfucker I've ever seen in a legal procedure in a movie that was not supposed to be funny, I said, well, I probably, run away from the police as well. That is what Robert does. He gives the police the slip and, is able to escape from the police station just prior to, him being standing in front of the judge, and he's probably, gonna get arrested and stuff like that. So he runs away because the police doesn't want to, check out, his thing with Tom's hat and, the disappeared coat with a belt and stuff like that. So there is, of course, a massive manhunt for him, but most of London's police force at this point seems to be, consisting of Thompson and Thompson, basically, so he probably shouldn't be too worried about getting caught. It is actually the police chief's daughter who kind of finds him, or he found her, Erica, and she's, telling him that you have to give yourself up and I cannot be seen with you, I'm, the police chief's daughter and stuff like that. And he insists that he is innocent, and if he just can find the guy who stole, his coat with a belt, then he's going to be able to prove that he's innocent. And reluctantly, she kind of, leaning more and more towards his side and start actually to help him trying to find the coat and prove that he's innocent, because she doesn't believe that he did it, because he doesn't appear like, a murderer to her. Essentially, Erica is torn between the loyalty to her father, the police chief, and her growing affection for Robert. So what is going to happen? Are they going to be able to find, the coat? Or has the trail gone cold? Or, will the murderer get away with it? Who was the actual murderer and why did he murder this woman? And, that sort of thing is what this movie is about. So it's basically a guy who's trying to prove that he is innocent of a crime he didn't commit, being helped by the police chief's daughter, and that is a very interesting story. But the problem is that the vast majority of this movie, 2/3 roughly, is a pretty big chore to get through. It's a snail's pace, and there is no real tension here because they're trying to mix in a lot of weird comedy in this thing, which I didn't feel fitted at all. It gave the movie a weird sense of black absurdist comedy, which I thought, diminished the exciting story about, trying to find the coat and, whoever has killed this woman. But the thing is that after a while I got more and more into this movie the longer this movie went. And I will say that the last third of this movie, the third act, especially the sequences at the hotel, with all the blackface by the way, is fucking great. It is so exciting, it is so masterfully done, and they're being to cram in a lot of plot into a very, very small section of the movie. Essentially, I wish they could have, turned the third act into half the movie, or even, 2/3 of the movie, because it was so great, and they were able to have this much tension and this much drama without firing a single shot, without having a single fight, or having a single car chase. It's amazing how it is done. I think personally that this movie was better than when I saw it the last time. That was when I went through all of Hitchcock's movies chronologically, and were trying to find which one was the best and which one was the not so good and stuff like that. So I didn't like that movie at the time, but when I rewatched it, I actually found the ending of this movie to be a lot more interesting and a lot more tense than I actually remembered it to be. Now, some problems still remains. Neither of our two leads are very interesting actors, and they are far better characters than they are, actors performing, as those characters. No means are they bad, but it's a little bit hokey, and as I said, the attempt at the comedy and stuff like that just took away so much from what otherwise could have been a very exciting murder chase and stuff like that. So how does this stack up against, the rest of Hitchcock's filmography from this period in time? Now, I will say that movies like Saboteur, The 39 Steps, and The Man Who Knew Too Much, and A Lady Vanishes is better, but most other movies, I think this is on par with or better than. So it is a movie where you can see Hitchcock still hasn't really mastered his craft 100% yet, but he's getting there, and he's getting better, and he's getting more, interesting, and his eye for detail is getting better. But there are also these sequences where this movie has aged horrendously, and I'm not talking about the blackface thing. I'm talking about how this movie is edited. I'm talking about how this movie is shot. From a technical standpoint, this movie has aged horrendously, because sometimes cuts seem to come out of nowhere, and sometimes scenes seem to still be going on and they still just cut it. I don't know if that was a artistic choice or not, but it was very distracting, and it made the movie look a little bit, old. But this is still a pretty damn interesting and a pretty suspenseful movie. Not mandatory viewing of any kind, but as early Hitchcock film goes, you could do a lot worse. But one thing I was thinking about when I saw this movie is, man, I kind of wish that Hitchcock could have done a remake of this movie instead of The Man Who Knew Too Much. He actually, did a remake of one of his own films and vastly improved it. Considering what he could have done in Technicolor with a bigger budget and some big fucking stars, that movie could have been absolute boss. Now we are just stuck with this movie that is really, really decent to kind of good, with a very, very good finish. But it could have been better, but it was better than I remembered it to be. I wouldn't say that the third act saved this movie, but it sure as hell improved it. Young and Innocent is a pretty damn decent movie, and I'm giving it 57 points. It has some very good characters, if the acting is a little bit hokey, and it is an interesting story. I just wish that it could have been done better, because in the technical aspect of this movie, it lacks severely, and the budget isn't quite enough, and some sequences just feel like it wasn't supposed to be in that movie. But all in all, this is a pretty damn good movie. So I'll see you next time from, well, so and so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.